It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the three films of March 16th, 2007. Not a lot of good movies here, but some notable movies that could have been something, but they just weren't. Let's just go ahead and jump on into the biggest new release of the weekend. Biggest in quotation marks, if you will. Sandra Bullock in a very against type movie, starring in Premonition. Yeah, this isn't Sandra Bullock in the romantic comedies you've come to know her for the last 10 years before this, but no. This is back when Sandra Bullock was making her name known with movies like Speed and The Net and A Time to Kill. More completely outside of her normal romantic comedies that she was doing a lot of around this time. And of course, that would eventually lead to her getting her Academy Award for The Blind Side, but this movie certainly is that. This is not that. Despite the premise being pretty interesting. You have Sandra Bullock as a homemaker who's married and experiences the days surrounding her husband's death, her husband being played by Julian McMahon from Nip Tuck and Fantastic Four, in a non-chronological order and attempting to save him from his impending doom. So she'll wake up one day and he's dead. She'll wake up the next day and he's alive, and next day he's dead, next day he's alive, so on and so forth. And so there's this mystery going on about what's really going on here, who's behind this, who's involved in this whole thing, is Jim really dead or not? And it should be a really good concept. It's a really interesting idea using time travel as part of an idea like this, but kind of like with Deja Vu the year before, it's a good concept on paper, but when it's executed into a feature-length script like this, they needed better writers than this, because it really is not that good, and it really is such a bummer when it's all said and done, because there's just so much possibility with a concept like this, and a cast that includes names like Sandra Bullock and Julian McMahon, two really good actors overall. The cast also includes Nia Long and Amber Valletta, a lot of good talent, and just a really good concept overall, but the mystery is not engaging whatsoever, and when we get to the actual reason for why everything is working out like this, it's one of those moments where it's just like, you gotta be kidding me. There's two ways you can go with this. One, you could have an engaging mystery that actually has a twist that really does come out of nowhere and actually fits with what you're trying to deal with here. Or you can be really stupid or just go along with it because the movie beforehand is really good. Or the third option, which I'm just going to mention now, doing something really stupid and just go with it. And it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This is that third option here, and it would help if the movie was actually really good and actually lived up to the potential of its premise. But it doesn't do that. It goes for the most ridiculously stupid twist I've seen in a long, long time. M. Night Shyamalan would kill himself if he watched the way this twist comes up. Like, he's looking at this going like, I write better twists than this, and he wrote some really bad twist endings back in the day. Still kind of does here and there, but not as much as he did before. But yeah, the bottom line here is that the twist sucks. It's not a good twist whatsoever. It just really adds up to a film that has so much potential to it, and just couldn't do anything to seal the deal at the end. It's a disappointment. It's a massive disappointment on so many levels. And yeah, it's a film that really blew every opportunity it had. It had the cast, it had a really good story. The script is really what ruins it, and the direction is really what ruins it too, and the twist really ruins it. Just everything about it is just bad. It's just such a mess of a film. It's a major, major disappointment nonetheless. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie. The director of Saw gives us his first major studio project, Dead Silence. Once again, kind of like with Premonition, a really good concept, a lot of really good talent in here, but, style over substance is really another one of these examples of this movie. But, like I said, this is James Wan's first major studio project after breaking out with Saw a couple years prior, and, this was his first major studio film, considering Lionsgate wasn't really seen as like the big major six studios at that point, but it eventually would become that. But in this film, after his wife meets a grisly end, Jamie Ashton returns to his hometown of Ravensfair to find answers. His investigation leads him to a ghost of a ventriloquist named Mary Shaw, who seems to have ties with to his entire family tree. And of course, you see all these creepy ass puppets all over the place, and you think the movie is going to be really, really scary because, yeah, the puppets in here are really legitimately terrifying, and there's a good cast involved in here. Amber Valletta's in this movie again, her second film of this weekend. Donnie Wahlberg, character actor Bob Gutton from The Shawshank Redemption and most recently Ghostbusters Afterlife. Just a lot of things about this movie that could work overall, but again, style over substance. The visuals look really good. The story is about as generic as you can get, and you can tell that this movie probably had a little bit of studio interference overall, and yeah, it really would not be surprising whatsoever if that was indeed the case. In fact, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the studios did get involved in here because they didn't trust this director for a big project like this, for a major studio. And unfortunately, the film really does not live up to the hype that I think it really should have had. I mean, the puppets in here are legitimately terrifying. There's a lot of good atmosphere and tension-filled moments in here, but the execution, the story department really just falls apart. And apparently there was a script doctor that got involved in this, and usually they're not very good at their jobs, especially with horror films like this. And probably it took away what the intended vision for Leigh Whannell, the writer of this, probably had in mind. And it just leads to a film that had so much potential to it, so much promise to it, and just didn't deliver on any of it. And just, it's a shame because there are some legitimately creepy moments in this movie, but it's not enough to carry the film overall as a whole. And it really is a letdown because I feel like there's so much more that could have been done with this, but it just wasn't there, so. Alright, so with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, which is probably the best movie of the weekend, and even then, it's not really a great movie overall, but certainly it's a lot better than Premonition and Dead Silence. It's I Think I Love My Wife. Or let's just call it what it really is. Chris Rock bags Wonder Woman and Olivia Pope. I mean, that's literally what the movie is. But in this movie, Brenda, played by Gina Torres, wears comfortable cotton panties. Nikki wears sheer lacy thongs. Nikki's played by Kerry Washington. Richard Cooper, played by Chris Rock, is in the middle with a good job in Manhattan, a house in the suburbs, two cute children with Brenda, his intelligent, good-looking wife who's a teacher, but there is no sex in the 7-year marriage. So Richard's bored. Into the mix walks Nikki, a sexy, sassy single friend he has not seen in years. Nikki has problems and finds a reason to stop at his office every day. He tries to help, they have some fun, and he doesn't mention Nikki to Brenda. His work and reputation suffer. Is he about to scratch the 7-year itch? What choices does Richard have? Well, if you're in a marriage that you've been in for 7 years, chances are you probably should be just like, maybe I should not do this, but then again, I've never been married before, so what do I know? But I mean, if I had, like I said, if I had Gina Torres and Kerry Washington and I'm part of this love triangle, yeah, I probably would have a hard time choosing which one I would want to spend the rest of my life with. But this is actually based off of a remake of a French film called Love in the Afternoon by Eric Romer, and Chris Rock makes his directorial debut on this. Actually, no, I take that back. It's actually his second film as a director, with Head of State being the first one. He co-wrote this with Louis C.K., who, of course, would later work on Louis, and they would do a bunch of other projects together, including Pootie Tang, of all movies. But yeah, this is a movie where I give Chris Rock a lot of credit for trying to do something that's outside of his norm. You know, Chris Rock, we see him in movies like the aforementioned Pootie Tang, Down to Earth. What's another one? Head of State. Like these movies where he has a specific brand of comedy that works to those movies in general. But here, you can tell he's trying to channel more of his Woody Allen-esque type of filmmaking, and he does this for a couple of movies. I think he does it much better with the next film he would direct, which is Top 5, which is still a movie that I really love, that came out in 2014, and really didn't leave much of an impact with most people. It kind of came and went. It was a critical success, but in terms of the box office, like I said, it came and went. It really just kind of disappeared afterwards. But I still really like that movie a lot, and just recently, he's been doing more stuff that's outside of his norm. He was on Fargo. He did the Saw spinoff Spiral from the Book of Saw, which I thought was pretty good overall. And I think this movie does work to see something different from Chris Rock in general. Like, this is not the typical Chris Rock comedy that you would expect from him in general. And I think he does make it work here. In fact, there's a lot of things that I thought this movie did very well. That's something like The Last Kiss with Zach Braff the year before didn't really do. In this one, I got a lot more laughs. I like the relationships he has between his wife in the movie and this girl that he's come across all over again. And it just goes to show you the leading actresses that these two would later go on to become, like Gina Torres. I mean, Gina Torres was already Wonder Woman at this point, but Kerry Washington, it was one of the first movies I ever saw her in, and I thought, wow, this woman's got she's got a lot of potential as an actress going forward. And yeah, of course, now you see her nowadays on shows like Scandal, and of course, what was that? What's that one on Hulu? The Onyx show on Hulu that was recently? I think it was Reasonable Doubt. I think. Was it Reasonable Doubt? I'm trying to see if I can find it. Got the name completely wrong. Unprisoned was the name of the show. Yeah, I've seen a little bits and pieces of it. I think it's pretty good. I think she's established herself as a prominent leading actress as a whole. And she plays well with Chris Rock here very well. I mean, the comedy in here can be good sometimes. The story kind of goes into predictable territory. We've seen done to death so many times before. And like I said, as much as what he tries to channel Woody Allen a lot in this, unfortunately, the movie doesn't work all the way through. And I think it really stumbles, especially towards the end of the movie. But there is a lot of stuff I did like about the film. There is more stuff that I can recommend that I would say is kind of against the movie in general. Not a perfect movie by any means necessary, but a film that I think is actually a lot better than people let on nonetheless. I mean, like I said, I think Chris Rock directed a much better movie after this with Top 5, but this one's not bad either. It's actually more than not bad. It's actually kind of good. So I would recommend it. If you like seeing Chris Rock doing something that's outside of his norm, I would recommend seeing him in this. I think he's very good in this movie. And I think the movie itself is pretty good too. So I think I love my wife. And so with all of that said, we're going to wrap up this edition of Time About the Movies. And the next time we meet, we'll take a look at 6 movies, including TMNT, the first CG animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. But not the good one, though. Even though this one's not bad per se, but I'm sorry. If you're going to make me compare this to Mutant Mayhem's going to win easily. But we also have Mark Wahlberg starring in Antoine Fuqua's Shooter. We also have The Last Mimsy, another E.T. clone, this time from New Line Cinema, with Rainn Wilson among the cast. The sequel to last year's breakout hit, The Hills Have Eyes, The Hills Have Eyes 2, which is essentially the remake of The Hills Have Eyes, but Reign Over Me, starring Adam Sandler and Don Cheadle, in one of the 3 major projects that came out after September 11th. Bernie Mac and Terrence Howard starring in Pride. So we'll take a look at those 6 movies. That'll be coming up on tomorrow's show. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button, and also hit that bell, because you get updates on when new videos come out, and we do post here every day. Now, with all that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.